Hi, this is Michael Waits, and welcome back to Insurance for the New Possible, a Chubb conversation. We are joined by Rodrigo Valiente, a VP, Head of Digital for Latin America at Chubb, and Hugues Bertin, the CEO at Digital Insurance LatAm, and a partner at HCS Capital. It is great to have both of you here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very well pronounced my name, Mike. Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, for having me again.
Again, it is my complete pleasure. Before we get into the main part of this conversation, why don't we start with a little anecdote about insurance from both of you. Let's start with you, Hugues.
Okay. About an anecdote, yeah. I think that it was in the pandemic period.
Okay.
Yeah. I had my car stopped for, I think, 2 months. And I received a message from my insurance company to say, hey, guy, I think that you have low battery, and I am very, very bad to manage my car for my maintenance. So I go to my car, and I have no battery.
Oh, no.
So, wow. And after that, I receive other message to say, hey, we can help and call to your assistants to help to put battery. So I call to the assistants go 2 hours after, and they put me battery. And in that case, I said, wow.
That's from the insurance company.
Yeah,
that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, in Chile. So for the first time, I received a wow effect. And I say, okay, it's the new technology is a new normal for us.
That's interesting. Was your car connected?
Yes, with the telematic, yes.
So
because it was a pay as you drive model.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's really, really interesting. We'll get back to that as well. Rodrigo?
For me, it's a story about connecting with the audience. I remember when we started this journey, like probably 7 years ago, the digital transformation, in Chubb LatAm, Chubb Latin America. And one of the first few campaigns that we started with and we were very excited about was with working with influencers, right? And we hired a couple of influencers in Brazil. Each influencer in Brazil is like a whole country. This guy had, the first one I remember, had 25 million followers. 25 million followers. Is it like 2 Chiles, right? And
then, that's like 10% of the population in Brazil, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And then the second one had 40 million followers. And we said, wow. And we managed to close a very good deal with them. So if we hit it just 1% of the people following these guys, the amount of policies that we would sell, right? That was the key hypothesis back then. Guess how many policies we sold with both guys?
I'm not 0. Yeah.
17 on the first one.
17.
Literally 17 policies and 11 on the second one. What we realized is that we didn't do an analysis on their audience. Who were the followers? Why they were following them, and why was that something that eventually would turn meaningful to their customers? The reality was they were all people between 20 years old and 15 years old. No credit cards, no payment method back then. So 5 years later, I'm back in Mexico this time, talking to another influencer that is selling hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of policies each month.
What was the difference?
The audience. The guy was connecting on a different level with the audience, talking about insurance in a funny way, giving them advice, giving them tips, giving them ways to prevent themselves, provide them information for how to be protected and stuff like that. Adding value basically to the audience, not necessarily pushing policies, right? What we tried to do the first time with a celebrity or an influencer that didn't have any real relationship with insurance. And now the guy is on TikTok, on Tinder, on everywhere, every single platform. The guy is nailing it because he found a way to talk to his audience that adds value to them, and we connected through him to them. Right?
So this is actually super interesting, right? You've already mentioned Chile. You live in Chile, right?
Yeah, right.
But where are you from originally?
I'm from France.
From France.
From Paris.
From Paris. Interesting. And you've already talked about Mexico and Brazil.
Correct.
So here's the thing that's really interesting to me. How do you change what you do from country to country? Because Mexico is not like Brazil, and Brazil is not like Chile, and it's not like Argentina either. Can we talk a little bit about how this travels and what the differences between countries are?
Yeah. I'll say that there's quite a lot of differences among the different countries in LatAm. And there's a big difference, I'll say, between Brazil and the Spanish-speaking countries.
Right.
In some nuances of the culture, the way you address businesses, the way you do businesses, the way you conduct yourself, the way you read the other person because of some certain background you know about the culture. But at the end of the day, the problems are more or less the same. Structurally, and in terms of financial protection, in terms of inclusion, in terms of technology, they're quite more similar than one would expect. Of course, that when you are seeing this from the point of view of the country, Argentina is Argentina, or there's no other country like us. Brazil thinks the same thing about themselves. But once you have a broader view, like I have the luck to have, I see more similarities than differences, really.
In my case, I think that because I'm French, I have an overlook about Latin America. And I think that every country, in my case, is very different from a cultural point of view.
How so, though?
I think, for example, in the case for Argentina, like Rodrigo, Argentina is very
World champion.
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
Congratulations.
Congratulations on that.
At the last minute.
And coming from a French, it means a lot.
It's been a while now, to be fair. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Argentina is very creative, and there are a lot of emprendedors and entrepreneurs. So I think it's very different if you compare with Chile. Chile is very well organized and very well structured. And for example, it's the case for Mexico that is very more slow but with more powerful. So I think that every culture is very different when you travel. And for sure, and I share with the point of view of Rodrigo, Brazil is other planet.
But it feels like it's really different. I want to make an equivalency, right, to where I live. So I live in Bangkok.
Yeah.
And when we talk about Asia, a lot of people just look at it as one monolithic place, right? So the problems may be the same, but I think it's sometimes the way we use technology to solve those problems can be very different. And again, just to do an equivalency, in Southeast Asia, 650 to 670 million people, and there were, 7 countries. But in Latin America, if you can call it that, right? 20 countries and around the same number of people, right? So when you think about that, do you look outside of Latin America at all in its stage of development, particularly for insurance and InsurTech, and try to see best practices from other places? Or is it self-contained, that type of innovation?
Yes, I think that in the case of Latin America, about innovation in insurance space, I think that from one side, there are a little bit... it's a little bit late if you compare with Europe or with US, because insurance is not has not the same level of penetration if you compare with US, for example.
What is the penetration in Latin America?
The penetration, I think, is about 2% of 2 or 3% of the PIB.
Okay.
Yeah. So
the GDP.
Of GDP. Sorry. Thank you so much for. I think that. But from other side, I think that the digital transformation is very deep in the case of Latin America. For example, when you see a model like Rappi in Colombia, like Mercado Libre from Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, I think that e-commerce platforms are very well developed. Super app are very well developed.
Really?
Yes. If you compare with US, yes, in the case, yeah. So in that case, I think that there is a new possibility that is to go and to sell insurance to underserved people. And that's the way I think that we can observe in the case of Latin America.
Yeah, in my opinion, before insurance, I'll say insurance disruption and the digital transformation and everything that's going on in LatAm, I'll say that with the innovation in general and technology in general, we used to look at Europe, we used to look at US, we used to look up for Silicon Valley, we used to look up for those places and saying, wow, those guys are amazing, let's bring some of that tech
here, right?
Yeah, let's bring it here, let's bring some of those business models to our region and we'll make it big. And that has been the case, I'll say, from the 2000s, from the 90s on to 10 years ago, right? When what happened was that we realized that our problems were not the same problems that they had in US and Europe. We had a lower penetration, financial penetration. It's way lower here than in any other region in the world, perhaps maybe comparable to Asia. And then we have less sophisticated product, less income per capita. So we have different, less developed infrastructure in terms of technology, distribution, e-commerce, logistics, all those things.
So that's the other question I want to ask you. What is the penetration of just like cell phones, mobile phones, smartphones, and access to the internet?
Yeah,
as well?
It's been growing a lot. Internet as a total, I think it's around 78% right now. E-commerce is at 10, 12%, I believe, compared to US and Europe is 30 or 40.
Got it.
I mean, everything is, let's say, between a third and a half of what in the developing countries is, but it's growing at double digits, even triple digits in some cases. Of course, the pandemic accelerated a lot of those growth rates. But I'll say that was the case for the first part. Was like, let's replicate what's working in US, what's working in US, and some of those companies or some of those entrepreneurs will hope that eventually those big marketplaces, those big platforms will come to Latin America and will acquire them, right? That was one of the theses back then.
Right.
Now the reality is different. Now the entrepreneurs that are starting businesses here in LatAm, they solve for LatAm. And then they expand worldwide, right? Like he was mentioning Rappi, Betterfly. There are a lot of companies that were started here. Nubank, the biggest digital bank in the world today, was created in Brazil by a Latin American founder, right? So all those things combined now makes this region as exciting as Europe or as US or even as Asia for venture funding, because now they see good thesis, good founders, good opportunities here. So I think that now we are better equipped to compete with other regions in the sense of talent, technology, funding, opportunities, and so on, right?
I want to talk about solving different problems. In my mind, the entrepreneurs in the United States are trying to automate everything. But they already have the existing market and the existing penetration, right? So they're trying to take something that already exists and automate it. Yeah. They're not worried about penetration, nor are they worried about distribution, because they already have that. But it seems to me that in Latin America, that you have to solve both of those problems. And you can automate everything, but if you don't have the distribution, it doesn't matter. Do we have this right? And can you talk about that a little bit, right? Because they seem to be doing this in reverse. And what that means is that a company that's founded in the US or in Europe can't just rock up to Latin America and solve that problem because they don't understand how to get the distribution side of it done with tech. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that it's interesting, your question, because in the case of Latin America, I think that in the past, Latin America always looked after what is happening in Europe, in US.
Right.
So the model is the top management, the top level of the society.
Right.
So you can, for example, in the case of car insurance, of homeowner insurance, Latin America copy the model of US, the model of Europe. And they forgot, in the past, they forgot the underserved people.
Yeah, because they're missing most of the market.
Yeah, for sure, because we don't know what are the needs of the people.
Right.
That's the point, because when I always say when a lot of insurance companies try to deliver a very good value proposal for underserved people, the question is how we can imagine a good value proposal, because the people that are working in an insurance company are not from this part of the society.
Right.
So it's very difficult to imagine what are the needs of these people.
Right, so I can't solve a problem for somebody if I don't understand what that problem is.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
That's hard
because you need to live. You need to live in poblaciones, in Chile, in Villa Miseria, in Argentina, in order to understand what are the needs.
Right.
For example, in the case of Argentina, it's very interesting because for the people in Argentina, with the very well underserved people, the topic is the teeth. Why? Because if the teeth are not very nice, it's very difficult to find a job.
So that's fascinating. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, for example, for the underserved people in Argentina, it's very important to have a coverage about tooth, or about for dentist, to go to the dentist, because that's the part of the society that is needed.
Got it. So, can I ask you this though? If the distribution or just the inclusion part, let's just say, is InsurTech 1.0, what's the difference between that and what we're seeing today and what we're going to see in the future as the insurance and InsurTech market develops?
Yes, about when we talk about InsurTech 1.0,
yes.
I think that lived the end of this first wave.
So what was that first wave, though?
Yeah, I think the first wave, when you describe, is a little bit focused about automatization.
Okay.
And automatization or a go-to-market to say, hey, guy, until now, insurance companies are very traditional, are very boring. So with the technology, we will disrupt the market. And for sure, the insurance carriers are not so traditional, and they know very well the market. So right now, the cost of acquisition is very high for a new InsurTech to go directly to the market. Okay. It's one part. The other part is automation. Automation, yes, but for what?
Right.
It's a question.
Right. What are we automating?
Automation is in order to increase the revenue for the shareholder. It's not very interesting, not?
No.
So what's the point? I think that when we are talking about InsurTech 2.0, in the case of Latin America, I think we are thinking about InsurTech that are trying to solve a problem and not to sell a solution. To solve the problem is the first part. The second one is to make a dimension of sustainability. And in that case, I think that inclusion, underserved people, are a new way to sell.
What do you mean by sustainability in this case?
I think that right now, when we observe the world, we are a little bit worried about the world, about the climate change, about the social impact, about the economical model right now. So we are like the sons of Markowitz. Markowitz is only risk and profitability. Okay, and right now I think that we lack the meaning of what we do.
Right. I mean, I feel like at some level we should have a conversation about late stage capitalism. Maybe we can save that for later. But I do think that that's not untrue, right? I want to ask you this too, in reference to what he was talking about. There was this whole concept of InsurTechs are going to disrupt. But from an insurer's standpoint, do you feel like it's changed over the past, like you said, 7 years ago when you first started doing this? It's changed from disruption to enabling, where insurers are now looking to InsurTechs and saying, you're not going to disrupt this because you can't do it on your own. But in the context of each individual country here, how can you work together with big insurers to enable different things like this sustainability? Is that fair?
I think so. Yeah, in a way, yeah. I if I get back to those times, I think there was a little bit of panic from the traditional incumbents, all the way from carriers to reinsurers. Everyone was panicking. We're going to be the next blockbuster. We're going to be the next
blockbuster. Oh, yeah. But did people actually get together and talk about this?
Yeah,
so you look at the InsurTechs growing and thinking, oh no, what do we do?
Yeah, this was a conversation at the board level. I mean, chairman, CEOs were discussing what's the play here, what we're going to do, and then all sort of different strategies.
The Kodak effect.
The Kodak effect. All sort of different strategies arise, from setting up venture funds and start funding InsurTechs, from launching your own digital team, from build up an accelerator, all sort of different strategies. Then as time went through, we realized that this wasn't like Star Wars right there, no? You know, the dark side and it was mostly
the Jedis.
The Jedis and all that. It was mostly about collaboration. We learned that if we work together, we could solve problems for the end customer or even our own operational problems, right? But the thing, how many InsurTechs are we having in LatAm? 400, something like that?
500.
500. I think I met roughly with 120.
Okay.
Myself, probably my team has met with many more as well. And what I see from InsurTech 1.0 was mostly about distribution and the user experience. We'll make this nice website, this nice app that will ask very little questions, or we make it more appealing to the end customer. But at the end of the day, they weren't really solving a new problem. We're making something more friendlier.
Right.
But
they were taking the same problems and just making it easier to interact.
Yeah, exactly. But at the end of the day, let's when we were discussing earlier, let's not forget that the Latin American customer still doesn't understand insurance, or doesn't have enough insurance to say, yeah, I'm going to wake up this morning, I'm going to buy health insurance, dental insurance, auto insurance, home insurance. That doesn't work. It doesn't work like that here. US, Europe have different sophisticated markets that we don't have yet here. So there's a lot of component about education, inclusion. People don't have the same average ticket spend that we can offer. I was having a conversation the other day. Oh yeah, we can sell this product for $10 a month. I said, not in LatAm, man. Not in LatAm. I mean, we have to design something different. The problems are different.
There's a perspective problem too, right? For somebody, $10 doesn't seem like a lot of money.
Exactly.
But for somebody who doesn't have $10...
And when you start decomposing the customer segments in Latin America, how many people have access to a bank account, to financial instruments, even to the cell phones we use, the penetration here of iOS is completely different.
Right, so you can build I was thinking about this, so you can build a great iOS app, but if nobody has an iPhone...
Or even if you make it too heavy, that the network data takes a long time to load up, the guy is not going to be there. It's not going to buy the products.
And if it's a prepaid phone versus a postpaid phone, you're getting a completely different experience.
Different problems.
So he talked about the panic, right, from an incumbent insurer perspective. And I know from my own experience that a lot of the InsurTechs, when they started, like, we're going to disrupt this, we're going to destroy everybody. But at some point, their perspective must have changed as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think that humility, I think is the word in the past for insurance company, because I think that insurance company, has not moved from 200 years. So I think that right now with the technology, we can change the insurance company, transform, to propel the insurance company in the new normal. But right now, I think that InsurTech must be very humble too.
Right. But did you see them change? In other words, they panicked first, and then they realized it wasn't the dark side and the light side.
Yeah, I think that they are changing because right now they lack of financing. So right now, humility is the word. Because they have no money. They have no money. So I think that we will observe a lot of InsurTech in bankrupt in the next month. So it's a reality. Yeah.
What is the death rate?
The death rate is estimated to 12% by year.
That's not that bad, right?
No, but I suppose that
it's going to get higher.
In 2023, it will be a little bit higher.
Which is okay, don't you think, at some level?
This level is quite okay, but I think that right now we will observe or a high level of mortality rate, or a very turnaround about InsurTech, because I think that a lot of InsurTech, for example, that is B2C go-to-market InsurTech, are moving from a B2B to C model because they know that it's better to be connected with the platform to sell insurance.
They have to be, right?
Yeah. In my case, I've seen, like I said before, I met with many of them and I love to engage with them and we do business with many of them. What I would like to see this year and probably next is new ideas, new solutions, right? I'm kind of always seeing some of the same things over and over about distribution when there are so many fundamental problems that we could solve together as an industry, from the way we price products, from the way we provide the claims experience, from the way we complement it with other products that are not necessarily insurance to add more value to the end customer, from the way we gather the data from. There's so many problems that we can solve. And I'm always seeing like 90% of the InsurTechs I see is about distribution, making the customer experience at the acquisition point very easier. I would like to see more on the back end. To really challenge everyone in the industry, even ourselves, to come up with new solutions.
Right. In a way, this is why I think the mortality rate is not just okay, but it's going to get higher. Because if 10 companies are trying to solve distribution, only 2 or 3 of them are going to exist in a few years. Right?
It's the venture capital model. The winner takes all, right?
I want to talk about venture capital really badly.
Okay.
But before we get to that, because if they're going to use new ideas, if they're going to do new stuff, they're going to have to, like the elephant in the room, it's always going to be now artificial intelligence and generative AI. Where does this fit in?
Yes, I think...
And in a few, because it's not just one place, right?
Yeah, I think that artificial intelligence is a game changer right now.
Feels like it.
Okay, so we talk a lot in the last 5 years, 10 years.
50 years, to be fair.
50,
But it's true, though, right? I mean, the stuff that's going on in generative AI has been around. The technology itself and the understanding of this has been around for 50 years, but the compute and the connectivity has changed to make it possible to actually use. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that with, for example, in the case of ChatGPT, that is the buzzword for sure in the last 4 months. But when we observe that every people are using ChatGPT right now, with a very good level of creativity. I think that the game changer is right now generative artificial intelligence will create contents. So music, image, video.
Right.
So what we can imagine in the case of insurance, for example, right now in the case of Latin America, a lot of insurance companies in the past has used telemarketers to sell insurance. Okay, so but what was the limit? The limit was the cost. If profitable or not profitable to call to a people to try to sell insurance. Okay, right now with generative artificial intelligence, everything is free. So we can imagine that tomorrow receive tens and tens of virtual people to try to sell in a very well manner insurance products. So the question is, we will accept, and we can imagine tomorrow to write a script and to create contents, video, podcasts like this. Perhaps it's not interesting to have a podcast right now. I don't know. That's a challenge.
I have my own opinion on this.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious if you think it's free. And I'll tell you why. We do a lot of content creation. And actually, we use a lot of automation.
Yeah.
But the thing that generative AI can't do is it can't come up with its own idea. Right? So you can use it for scale. Right? In the same way that Ford figured out, I can build an assembly line. Right? And I can automate, like I can build robots then later on in life, what the Japanese figured out, to build cars. But they can't design the car. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Now, generative AI may be able to design it, but at the end of the day, you're still going to have humans figure out, is this what a human really wants? Right? Because they're building it for humans. And that's, I think, the missing piece. I don't think it's necessarily free, but I do think it gives you a lot more leverage to be able to build scale. Where do you think it fits in?
Yeah, I don't think it's free.
It's not.
I don't think it's free.
Yeah.
It might seem free right now because you can access directly instead of doing a Google search. You can go to ChatGPT, but it's not going to be free forever, and there's always some cost behind it. Like with every new technology comes the fear of disruption, leaving people out of jobs. And for us in our team, luckily we have a culture of constant learning and stuff that we embrace every new technology, and we'll try to see, first off, are the customers going to be here? Are they going to use it? Because we have to be where the customers are going to be.
Right. Are they going to accept it?
Yeah, they're going to embrace it. Are they going to accept it? Or is this going to be a niche thing? Or if it's niche, it's okay, but maybe it's for a different segment of different team or different department or different solution. So that's one of the first questions we ask. Are the customers going to be here? Then if they are, how do they interact with that new technology? And then how we can embed ourselves into that in a way that adds value to the end customer, to the intermediary, to the partner. I was thinking of, there's so many different use cases. We have the tech team from talking to the ChatGPT to see if it can analyze their code and find mistakes there and replace the QA. And then we realize it's not going to be yet fully automated. There's always going to be the need of some human that runs the prompts or ask a different question and make the collaborations, the patterns and stuff like that. To your point of scale, I believe it's going to help with scale, definitely, 100%. But also, I'm always a little cautious when a new tech comes in because there always this overestimation of the use in the short term, and then there is underestimation in the long term.
Right.
I think that here we are just scratching the surface.
Absolutely.
Now what I see in the very short term is a change in the way we interact with internet as a whole.
Right?
For instance, I don't know about you guys, but I stopped using Google search. From now, I ask all my questions either to ChatGPT or to Bing because it's so much more convenient. I have a context and then I follow up and then I learn how to make questions even better. But what I realized, what I've been realizing, it's like it's a more conversational engagement now, right? That rather than this direct and back and forth questions that doesn't it forces. I'm much more efficient now doing my search. Let's say
the way I look at this, right, is because you talked about like replacing humans at some level, right? The thing is that what automation can't do is it can't do this. It can't look into your eye and see what the reaction is that you're having. It can't react to you in the same way that I can. Or that he can.
Yeah, for sure. The thing that the point is right now is the emotion, because the emotion and the human contact we cannot be replaced right now.
Yeah.
the risk of tomorrow with ChatGPT is definitely to automate a lot of tasks and high level tasks.
Sure.
For example, it's the case of order. When you go to, for example, to a Starbucks and to talk 2 minutes to Starbucks, I think that tomorrow a very good ChatGPT could be the same work in the same manner. So, but definitely, as Rodrigo mentioned, I think that it's a new paradigm, and they open a lot of new opportunity in the case of insurance space.
Right.
But I suppose that we cannot imagine definitely what will be all the new way to sell insurance, and I think that, in my opinion, it's a game changer.
It is for so many things. I'm still, again, need to see more profound changes besides the end relationship with the customer. Of course, for instance, every complex product that we have in insurance for property and casualty, or that needs more elaboration, more understanding, more even of a conversation, like with an agent, ChatGPT definitely could help. But still, I think there are so many different.
But the only part of risk I would like to mention today is in the case, for example, of a drug. When you sell a drug, right now there are a lot of control in order to sell the drugs in the market. Yes. Today there is no control to promote and to develop and to sell artificial intelligence in the market. So, and that's the point. The point is, what is the level of the control we have about this new technology, and this new technology could be very dangerous, for example, for the war and for everything. Yeah?
Yeah. So I like to go back 15 or 20 years to my own business experience, right? And look at when I sat on a trading desk. We used technology to automate a ton of tasks. And there were always conversations back then as well about what is going to be the impact on employment.
For sure.
And this is really, I really want to get both of your perspectives. Because for us, what we realized was that every new tech, we weren't afraid either. But what we did realize was that it helped us figure out who was really good at their job, because the technology actually made the people that were good amazing.
Yeah. And
the people that were middling meaningless, because they were also afraid. They were kind of just skating along doing nothing, but because they were there, you couldn't get rid of them. And I don't want people to lose their job, and I don't think it will make great people lose their jobs at all, because it didn't happen in the financial services industry where I was. My real question is, how then do we take this tech and superpower the people that are amazing? Right? Because whether it's product development or distribution or investment or writing contracts, that's going to help the people do that really well. How do you look at that part of this, where like the great people are going to be unbelievable and the middling people are just going to be exposed? No?
Yes, my answer is very short, is emotion. I think that human have today the emotion, and the emotion is the earth of the relationship, of the conversation, of the communication.
Got it.
So everything in the automatization space will be automated. So there is no issue about that. But there is a very high level of emotionality that for sure artificial intelligence cannot replace.
No.
And this part, for now, is great for the human.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. In my opinion, I think I call it the law of the thirds. Let me explain.
What is it? What is it?
Who is this guy? Mr. Thirds.
Yeah. The third, there's going to be a third of the team. There's going to be a third of the people that is going to jump right into it very fast.
Sure. Fair enough.
They're going to learn quite good how to use it, how to make their jobs
This
better.
is true for any tech, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead.
Any tech. Then there's the second third that's going to take more time to learn it. Gonna might fear it a bit at the beginning, but then eventually the laggards, right? They're going to adopt it and they're going to embrace it and they're going to make their jobs better. And then there's probably going to be a third.
We're just going to get left out.
They're going to be left out, and they're going to have to find other ways to get to get work, to get jobs and stuff. My job as a leader is to make as many people as possible to cross to the other side, right? That's my job, and I hopefully make it more than 2/3. But that's some in my experience how it works.
Yes, but yes, as you said, I think that technology reinvent the job, but they cannot replace the people. So people can reinvent themselves. So I agree with you that.
Do you feel like the InsurTechs themselves, when you go out and do your analysis, and when you talk to the InsurTechs in Latin America, are they what was the word, like, surprised by what's happening in this automation space, in the generative AI space, excuse me, and does it make them change what they're building and how they're building it as well?
Yes, for sure. That every tech guy like ChatGPT. So I think that every InsurTech is trying to use ChatGPT in order to improve his proposal, his value proposal. So, and I think it's good, and I think for the carriers that is very good to work with them because you can test some things. But that's the new buzzword.
I have a question for you guys.
Go ahead.
A year ago, we were talking about metaverse.
Thank you. I'm so glad you said that, because that was where I was going next. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No. The question is metaverse, Web3. 2 years ago, was it, I don't know, IoT? So maybe blockchain for sure. Blockchain. 4 years ago was IoT.
Yep.
My point is, are we always looking for the one tech that's going to win it all, or we see confluences, convergences between many techs?
So here's another question for you. I'll answer that question with a question. Are we so influenced by media's necessity to create a new thing to pay attention to that it feels like we're not paying attention to the larger picture?
Yeah.
In the sense that everything you just mentioned, whether it's blockchain or metaverse or IoT or now generative AI, does matter. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't matter any more today than it would have mattered yesterday, or matter any more or less if the media was not paying so much attention to it. I feel like it's our role to say, here are all these little bits and pieces of technology. How do we use them in a way to get better to get closer to the customer, to make better products, to build better startups, to fund better initiatives? And that's it. And if we can tone down the noise and ignore it, right? I mean, we say this all the time. It's our job, right, as kind of engineer thinking people, to minimize noise and find signals. Let the rest of the world jump from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, while what we're doing is innovating. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure, it makes sense. The only thing is the case of ChatGPT and Midjourney, something else, is I think that in the case of artificial intelligence, it's a very old technology.
Very.
And right now, there is a disruption in this same old technology.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only different element is that point. In the case of metaverse, in the case of blockchain, there is 1.0 version and not 2.0. Right now, we are observing a 2.0 version of artificial intelligence.
But it took 4 decades to get there.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
For sure.
So what's your answer to your own question? Because I have this concept that I call chasing. Right? You see some entrepreneurs do this, and I see this a lot in Southeast Asia. I'm sure the same thing happens in LatAm, yeah? It's that 4 years ago, I'm a blockchain guy. Then I'm a metaverse guy. Then I'm an IoT person. Now I'm a generative AI person. And you know what those people are actually building? Nothing.
Yeah. But I think what they do that is to raise money.
I agree.
Is if you position yourself as .ai or .ChatGPT AI company, you'll get better valuation or more access to capital or blah, blah, blah. I think it all comes down to what is the problem you're trying to solve.
Exactly.
And have the long-term view.
Right.
If you have a long-term view, technologies will go up and down, will get better and better. It will take longer or shorter to solve. But if you're very, very focused on a very big problem, I call it it's a $1 billion problem, not a $1 billion idea, right? You have to have a $1 billion problem. It's big enough. And the good thing about Latin America, they were full of problems.
Lots of $1 billion problems.
A lot of big problems.
I call those high-quality problems.
Exactly.
Okay, one more thing before we go. Venture capital. If I look at the United States, right, if I look at Europe and if I look at Southeast Asia, I know who the limited partners are. I know where that money's coming from. Educate me a little bit on what the source of funding is for VCs so I can get a better understanding of that.
Yeah, in the case of our VC, HS Capital, the funding is family office. Okay, definitely family office. But in the case at the worldwide level, the funding is from huge institutional like insurance company, banks, and
So it's the same type of limited partners.
yes. I didn't observe a difference between before and right now.
Yeah, in LatAm you'll have local venture capital firms, regional capital firm, very successful. I don't know, Casec Ventures come to mind as one of reference. Like it has been here for 20 years or so, making a lot of very good investment decisions. And then I'll say 5 years ago, maybe the big ones started to come into LatAm, like
From outside the region.
Tiger, SoftBank, all those started like what, 5 years ago, coming into the region, making big checks here. So now we have a more, let's say, sophisticated venture industry. Now we have early stage, later stage, even later stage. Before we have a few pieces here and there. Now we have a more develop value change. And at the end of the day, the family offices, the endowment funds, the college funds are going to be there as LPs, but making the investment decisions, I think we have a much more developed industry now.
And only to complete, today when we read some papers, we think that there is no money for InsurTech, for startups right now, and it's not the case.
It's not the case.
No,
right?
it's not the case.
There is a lot of money. That is, the name is dry powder. The dry powder is $500 billion in VC. The only thing is that right now they don't invest, but money is here.
Yeah, I'll give you another reference point for your education. Until 10 years ago, we used to have 6 unicorns. We have now more than 45.
Right. Yeah.
In the span of 5 years, 7 years, 10 years maybe, and quite a few IPOs.
7 times higher.
Yeah.
7+ times.
And I don't see that going away anytime soon.
No way.
There are going to be more restriction, a return to the mean in terms of the valuation.
Always reversion. Always.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Yes, but when you observe, for an anecdote, for example, I remember as a VC, we a lot of InsurTech pitches to HS Capital, yes. And one day I've got a meeting with a startup from Canada.
I know this story. It's very good.
No, it's amazing. It's amazing. So I'm going to talk with the guy. The guy was in the bed.
In the bed?
In the bed, okay, with the camera, okay, in the bed.
So he didn't blur, but you knew he was in his bed.
In the bed.
That's terrible.
In the
okay,
bed.
go
so
ahead.
I say, okay, we make the presentation, and I ask for a presentation, a deck. And he said, no, I don't have any deck. Okay, great. And he's talking about his InsurTech, that was an InsurTech about blockchain and something else, with all the buzzword.
All the buzzwords.
And he said, and I say, okay, but do you have an MVP, some traction, something? No, nothing. Great. What is the valuation of your startup? $20 million.
I was going to say 25, but okay, fair enough.
And I said, wow.
And he's in bed.
Wow, this guy is wasting my time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen now.
No.
But that guy might have raised around, probably.
Yes, but there are a lot. Huh?
Yeah.
So.
Okay, that's a big change.
Yeah.
Okay, boys. Thank you very much for doing this. Rodrigo Valiente, VP, Head of Digital for Latin America at Chubb, and Hugues Bertin, the CEO at Digital Insurance LatAm, and a partner. It was better, right? At HCS Capital.
After 45 minutes.
After 45 minutes.
I think that
Just kept thinking about it.
You speak
Thank
very
you both
well
very
French.
much for doing
Thank you,
this.
Mike. Thank you, Hugues.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Pleasure.